The human body is an astonishing testament to biological organization, where even the smallest deviation from normal can have profound consequences, illustrating the constant dance of life to maintain stability. To truly appreciate this, we have to start at the most fundamental level, the cell. The earliest organisms on Earth were unicellular, meaning they consisted of just one cell. These simple life forms were entirely dependent on their immediate external environment, which, as you can imagine, could vary quite extensively. However, multicellular organisms, like us, represent a significant evolutionary leap. Comprising many cells, we gain advantages like larger size and the ability to actively seek out or maintain a favorable external environment. Crucially, in multicellular organisms, cells specialize and work together, contributing to the well-being of other cells within the larger structure.
This specialization leads us to tissues. Tissues are groups of specialized cells that are similar in structure and perform a common function. Multiple types of tissues then group together to form organs. There are 4 primary tissue types that we'll explore: epithelial tissues, connective tissues, muscle tissues, and nervous tissues. Let's start with epithelial tissues. These are organized as sheets of cells, either one or more layers thick, and serve 2 basic purposes. First, they line body cavities, cover surfaces, and protect underlying tissues. Think of your skin or the lining of your digestive tract. Second, some epithelial cells are adapted to form glands. These are specialized epithelial tissues that synthesize and secrete a product. Glands come in 2 main types: exocrine glands, which secrete their products into hollow organs or ducts, like salivary glands, and endocrine glands, which secrete hormones directly into the blood for distribution throughout the body. We classify epithelial tissues further based on the shape of their cells. Squamous cells are flattened and form the outer surface of the skin and line blood vessels, lungs, mouth, throat, and vagina. Cuboidal cells are cube-shaped and form the lining of kidney tubules and glandular tissue. Columnar cells are tall and rectangular, lining the digestive tract, certain reproductive organs, and the larynx. These can sometimes include goblet cells, which secrete mucus.
Beyond shape, epithelial tissues are also classified by the number of layers. Simple epithelia are single-layered, adapted for diffusion across cell barriers, and line glands and various internal systems like the respiratory system and digestive systems. Stratified epithelia, on the other hand, are multiple-layered, providing protection like in the surface of our skin. Beneath epithelial tissues lies a non-cellular layer called the basement membrane. This membrane is composed of proteins secreted by both epithelial cells and connective tissue. It provides crucial structural support to the overlying cells and attaches the epithelial layer to the underlying connective tissue. Cells within tissues don't just float independently. They're held together by specialized cell junctions. Tight junctions seal plasma membranes tightly together, preventing leakage, as seen in the digestive tract lining and bladder. Adhesion junctions, also known as spot desmosomes, permit some movement between cells, allowing tissues like skin to stretch and bend. Finally, gap junctions feature protein channels that enable the movement of materials directly between adjacent cells, which is vital in organs like the liver and heart for coordinated function. Now, let's turn our attention to connective tissue. This tissue type has several general functions. It supports the body's softer organs, connects different parts of the body, stores fat, and even produces blood cells. A key characteristic of connective tissue is that its cells are embedded in a non-living extracellular ground substance, or matrix, which provides its strength. We categorize connective tissue into two general types, fibrous and specialized. Fibrous connective tissue provides strength and elasticity. It contains fibers and cells embedded in a gel-like ground substance, which is an intracellular material composed of water, proteins, and polysaccharides, giving the tissue its specific characteristics. The consistency of this ground substance can range from gel-like to rubbery. The cells found in fibrous connective tissue include fibroblasts, macrophages, lymphocytes, and neutrophils. Fibroblasts, in particular, produce and secrete the proteins that form the fibers. These fibers themselves are crucial. Collagen fibers provide strength with slight flexibility. Elastic fibers are thinner and can stretch, and reticular fibers are thin, interconnected collagen fibers that provide an internal structural framework for soft organs like the liver, spleen, and lymph nodes. There are 4 general types of fibrous connective tissue, varying in density and fiber types. Loose connective tissue, also called areolar, surrounds internal organs, muscles, and blood vessels with few collagen and elastic fibers. Dense connective tissue forms tendons, ligaments, and deeper layers of skin, characterized by many collagen fibers in a parallel arrangement. Elastic connective tissue with many elastic fibers surrounds hollow organs like the stomach and bladder that regularly change shape or size. Lastly, reticular connective tissue makes up the internal framework of soft organs and the lymphatic system. Let's dive a bit deeper into these specialized types. Cartilage is crucial for maintaining shape and cushioning. It's a dense connective tissue primarily of collagen fibers, and its ground substance, produced by chondroblasts, contains a lot of water for cushioning. Mature cartilage cells are called chondrocytes. One important point: cartilage is slow to heal when injured because it lacks blood vessels. Bone contains relatively few living cells, but its matrix is robustly composed of calcium phosphate, giving it its rigidity. Unlike cartilage, bone has numerous blood vessels. Blood, our fluid connective tissue, has a plasma matrix and contains cells derived from stem cells in bone marrow. These include red blood cells for oxygen transport and carrying away wastes, white blood cells for immune defense, and platelets for clotting. Adipose tissue, or fat, specializes in fat storage. It has few fibers and very little ground substance. Its fat cells, called adipocytes, store fat in vacuoles. Adipose tissue is found under the skin and around internal organs, playing beneficial roles in insulation and cushioning. Interestingly, weight loss reduces the size of individual adipocytes, but doesn't necessarily reduce their total number. Moving on to muscle tissue, its defining characteristic is its ability to shorten or contract, producing movement. Muscle cells are long, thin, and arranged parallel to each other, which is why they're often called muscle fibers. There are 3 types of muscle tissue: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. Skeletal muscles are what move our body parts. They connect to tendons, which in turn attach to bone and contract to create motion. Composed of thousands of individual muscle fibers, they have multiple nuclei and are voluntary, meaning they're under our conscious control and activated only by nerves. Cardiac muscle is found exclusively in the heart. Its cells are shorter,
blunt-ended, and typically have one nucleus. Crucially, cardiac muscle cells have gap junctions, which allow direct electrical connections between adjoining cells, enabling the coordinated contraction of the entire heart. Cardiac muscle is involuntary. The heart contracts rhythmically on its own. Smooth muscle surrounds hollow organs and tubes like blood vessels, the digestive tract, the uterus, and the bladder. Its cells are slim and tapered at the ends, with one nucleus per cell. Like cardiac muscle, smooth muscle also uses gap junctions for coordinated contraction, and it is also involuntary.
Our fourth primary tissue type is nervous tissue, forming a rapid communication network that includes the brain, spinal cord, and nerves throughout the body. The specialized cell of the nervous system is the neuron. Its function is to generate and transmit electrical impulses. Neurons have structural components, including a cell body containing the nucleus and most of the cytoplasm, dendrites, which are cytoplasmic extensions that receive signals from other neurons, and an axon that transmits electrical impulses over long distances. Supporting these neurons are glial cells, which surround and protect them and provide essential nutrients. When two or more tissue types join together to perform specific functions, we have an organ. Take the heart, for example. Its essential function is to pump blood, and it comprises cardiac muscle, smooth muscle in its blood vessels, nervous tissue in its valves, and epithelial tissue lining its chambers. Some organs, of course, have more than one function. Beyond individual organs, we have organ systems, which are groups of organs that serve broad functions important to the survival of an individual or the species. The human body has 11 organ systems. The digestive system, for instance, includes the mouth, throat, stomach, intestines, liver, pancreas, and gallbladder. Some systems, like the lymphatic system, perform several functions, such as defense against disease, circulation of some body fluids, and transport of some products of digestion.
Our bodies also contain several cavities. The anterior cavity is divided by the diaphragm into the thoracic cavity, which holds the two pleural cavities with the lungs, and the pericardial cavity enclosing the heart, and the abdominal cavity with the abdominopelvic cavity as its lower part. The posterior cavity includes the cranial cavity for the brain and the spinal cavity for the spinal cord. These body cavities are lined by tissue membranes, which are layers of connective tissue plus layers of epithelial cells. There are 4 types. Serous membranes line and lubricate internal body cavities, reducing friction between organs. Mucous membranes line airways, the digestive tract, and the reproductive tract, lubricating surfaces and capturing debris. Synovial membranes line spaces in movable joints, and the cutaneous membrane forms our outer covering, the skin. To describe body position, we use specific planes and terms. The mid-sagittal plane divides the body into left and right sides. The frontal plane divides the body into front and back, and the transverse plane divides it into top and bottom. Terms like anterior, at the front, and posterior, at the back, describe relative position. Proximal means nearer to the body trunk, while distal means farther away. Superior is situated above, and inferior is situated below.
The skin itself is a fascinating organ, part of the integumentary system, which also includes hair, nails, and glands. It performs vital functions, protecting us from dehydration and injury, serving as a defense against microorganisms, regulating body temperature, making a form of vitamin D, and providing sensation. The skin consists of 2 main layers, the epidermis and the dermis. The epidermis is the outer layer, made of multiple layers of stratified squamous epithelial cells that are continually replaced. It has no blood vessels. Its 2 major cell types are keratinocytes, which provide a tough, waterproof protein called keratin, and melanocytes, which contain dark pigment melanin, protecting against UV radiation. Basal cells are actively dividing keratinocytes at the base of the epidermis. Beneath the epidermis is the dermis, primarily dense connective tissue with collagen, elastic, and reticular fibers. It lies underneath the epidermis, supports the overlying tissues, and its fibers provide strength and elasticity. The dermis also contains fibroblasts, which are the most abundant cells, mast cells, white blood cells, and fat cells.
Accessory structures of the dermis include hair with its shaft above the skin and root in the hair follicle. A follicle is a sheath of several cell layers that supports the root. Smooth muscles attached to hair follicles can raise the hair to an upright position. Sebaceous or oil glands secrete sebum, which moistens and softens the skin. Sweat glands secrete sweat to help regulate temperature and contain antimicrobial peptides that protect against bacteria. Blood vessels supply nutrients, remove waste, and assist in temperature regulation. Finally, sensory nerve endings detect heat, cold, touch, deep pressure, and vibration. A cholesterol-like molecule in the skin is also converted to an inactive form of vitamin D, later activated by the liver and kidneys. All this incredible organization leads us to a central concept for multicellular organisms: homeostasis. The external environment for most cells is the internal environment of the body, specifically the interstitial fluid. This clear fluid fills the space between cells, serving as a source of nutrients and a repository for wastes. To sustain life, the composition and conditions of this interstitial fluid must remain fairly constant. Homeostasis is this relative constancy of conditions within the internal environment, and multicellular organisms dedicate a significant portion of their metabolic activities to maintaining it. Homeostasis is primarily maintained by negative feedback control systems. In these systems, deviations from a normal set point are detected and then counteracted. A negative feedback system has 4 components: a controlled variable, which is any physical or chemical property that needs regulation; a sensor, which monitors the current value and sends information; a control center, which receives input from the sensor, compares it to the set point, and signals if necessary; and an effector, which takes action to correct the imbalance based on information from the control center. Consider core body temperature. The controlled variable is body temperature. Sensors in the skin and internal organs transmit signals via nerves to the control center, which is the hypothalamus in the brain. The hypothalamus then activates different combinations of effectors, such as blood vessels, sweat glands, and skeletal muscles, to either raise or lower the temperature as needed, bringing it back to the set point. While negative feedback maintains stability, positive feedback amplifies events. It's relatively uncommon in living organisms. Here, a change in a controlled variable causes a series of events that amplifies the original change rather than counteracting it. The process of childbirth is a classic example. Positive feedback is not a mechanism for maintaining homeostasis, but rather for driving a process to completion.
This detailed look into the body's organization and its constant efforts to maintain internal balance draws extensively from the insightful lecture presentation by Professor Vanessa. If you found this deep dive into the body's organization enlightening, pass this episode along to a curious friend.